On behalf of the Board of Directors and the staff, I'd like to thank you all for coming to the Jerusalem Fund. If this is your first time here, we exist to improve the lives of Palestinians and to showcase the Palestinian experience to the DC community. Today we are honored to present Salim Tamari. Salim Tamari is the director of the Institute of Jerusalem Studies and professor of sociology at Birzeit University. He was visiting professor this year at the University of California at Berkeley. He was an Eric Lane Fellow at Cambridge University in 2008 and has received the Aga Khan Fellowship at MIT for 2009. He has also served as visiting professor at NYU, Cornell, University of Paris at Jussieu, University of Chicago, University of Michigan, and Durham University. Dr. Tamari is also editor of Hawliyat al-Quds and Jerusalem Quarterly. He is the author of several works on urban culture, political sociology, biography, and social history. Recent publications include Jerusalem 1948 in 2001, Al-Quds al-Uthmaniyya, or Ottoman Jerusalem in 2002, Mandate Jerusalem and the Memoirs of Wasif Jawahariya with Isa al-Nasir in 2005, Pilgrims, Lepers, and Stuffed Cabbage, Essays on the Cultural History of Ottoman and Mandate Jerusalem in 2005, Biography and Social History of Blad al-Sham, which he edited with Isa al-Nasir in 2007, Al-Jarad, The Intimate Life of an Ottoman Soldier in 2008, and Year of the Locust, Palestine and Syria During World War I, forthcoming from University of California Press in 2009. Dr. Tamari's current research is focused on Syrian and Ottoman prison experience in Siberia during World War I. Just released by UC Berkeley Press, The Mountain Against the Sea, Essays on Palestinian Society and Culture, has been called one of the finest socio-cultural histories of the region, irreverent, erudite, and captivating, and an utterly original and exceedingly important work. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Salim Tamari.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin. Thank you very much to the Jerusalem Fund for having me today. What a delightful group to talk to on the day before Thanksgiving. I know you're all busy stuffing the turkey. It's good to see you here. This book actually is a labor of love for me because I've been working on it. It's a collection of essays I've been working on for several years, and I'm delighted that it came out in English by UC Berkeley. Its theme addresses two major issues. One is the conflicted modernity of Palestine, which takes us way before the 48 war, and it addresses to a large extent the transition from the Ottoman character of the country to the colonial and then major transformation that took place after 48. It also is a study of the social history of Jerusalem, which, to my great surprise, and probably to yours, has not been written yet. And I'm certainly not claiming that this is the social history of Jerusalem, but there are thousands, literally thousands of books on political, factional, religious, architectural, urban history of the city of Jerusalem, but there's no social history. And perhaps partly because the city defies any kind of compartmentalization, partly because it is a fragmented city, but also because somebody never took the task of putting together the trajectory of several lives in it. And this led me to believe that one of the useful and important ways to examine social history would be through biography. And that's when I started looking at diaries, memoirs, family papers, to read into history what actually happened in the context of a quotidian narrative. So half of this book is the story of 5 people as read through their biographic and autobiographic writings, partly through their diaries, partly through papers that I examined from their families. one of which is the delightful self-narrative of Wasif Johariye. Some of you may have heard of him. He's a major performer and musician who served for a brief period as naval officer in the Ottoman army in nowhere else but the Dead Sea, which is a kind of paradox. But and he wrote a long memoir of life in Ottoman and Mandate Jerusalem. And through his eyes, I looked at the Ottoman and Mandate modernity of the city. The second person is a very important ethnographer and doctor by the name of Tawfiq Kan'an, who established a Jerusalem circle around 1919 and began to examine the peasant lore of the country while practicing medicine. He was a dermatologist trained in Berlin and a very important authority on leprosy. And the story begins, in his case, with how, it's a retrospective story, how in 1948 the lepers were all in the leper house in Baqa, and they were all gathered, rounded up by the Haganah, and all the Arab lepers were separated from the Jewish lepers, and they were sent packing to Silwan. The Arabs were sent to packing, and they eventually ended up in the Nijmi hospital, which Philip probably remembers, near Birzeit. And I found the story of the leper separation is a very interesting metaphor of what happened in the war. So there's a biblical resonance of separating the Arab lepers from the Jewish lepers, but also on the process of total physical separation, ethnic cleansing that took place. But he went on before to produce one of the most interesting ethnographic work on the local history of Palestine through his examination of peasant lore. And one of his main achievements, which I examine in this part of the book, is the accumulated cultural heritage of Palestine through the various successive regimes that came to the country, and as they are refracted and reflected in examining the relationship between peasants and city folks, but also peasant ritual through ceremonials and shrines, shrine worships. His book on Mohammedan saints and sanctuaries is a classical piece published in the 1920s, and since then has been virtually hidden from the public eye. So this was an attempt to see Jerusalem through his eyes and his circle, because he had 4 and 5 other people around him, one of which was Omar Saleh al-Barghouti, who I call here the last feudal lord in Palestine. Omar Saleh